Welcome to a presentation on how to set up and run 123 Synchronizer as a Windows service. The advantage of running it as a Windows services is that Windows services are designed to run in the background. They're faster, and once the service is set up, the software runs without any user interaction, and the user does not have to be logged in the system, and the service is optimized for service processing. The prerequisites to run 123 Synchronizer as a service is that you have to be running our build 13.6 or later in server configuration. This add-on or this extension will not work on a client configuration of 123 Synchronizer. 123 Sync has to be set up and tested before you set it up as a Windows service. User needs to have the proper permissions to create the service, and the service has to be run as a logged in user. That means if you're logged in as an administrator when you set it up, or logged in as your own name, when you start up the service, you have to be logged in as that individual. So let's see what it means to have everything set up on the synchronizer so that it works. So we go here and start the synchronizer. What we can see is that all the contacts and calendar tasks folder have been set for this enabled user. As well, we have the Exchange settings set, so we can test, see if we can log in, and we can log in into that user. We also have the Act login details. That's the login that we're gonna use when we log in into Act. So we click on Test, and the test succeeds. So what we have now is a fully functional user that we're synchronizing. We can also check on the contacts filter. See, it says here process all the contacts. So now this enabled user can be synchronized in the background because it's all set. If we click interactively the synchronize button, we will see that it goes and it synchronizes all the data, and once it's done, it's done and it's working. So before you go into establishing the synchronizer as a service, you go through all the users and you make sure that these users are all set up. In this example, we've only set up one user, but you have to do this with all the users so you know that everything is set up properly. So to set it up run in the background, we exit the synchronizer here. We go back into the programs folder and we start what we call the Sync Services Manager. The Sync Service Management interface that we provide is our tool on how to set up background processing and how to enable the Windows services. It has the background settings that you can set if you want to sync every 15 minutes. In this case, we have every 5 minutes. As well as you can it shows when the next synchronization is going to happen. You can do a refresh. It also has a sync now. What a sync now does, it resets the synchronization time to the current time, so the synchronizer will fire up almost within 2-3 seconds after this has been set. And it also allows you to open the sync log and see what happened in the synchronizer. So by opening the log, you can actually see all the synchronization timings that been occurring on the system. So to install and uninstall the Windows service, you click on the tools, and that will install the Windows service, and it will uninstall the Windows service as well. So by clicking on the install, now we have installed the Windows service into the computer. So how do we find where the Windows service is installed, or in other words, how do we manage this Windows service? We go into the Windows Explorer and we go to My Computer. On My Computer, you go into Manage. In Manage, you get a couple of options, and you go to Services and Applications, and you click on Services, and it gives you a list of the services on the system. And here we can see there's the 123 synchronizer service. So before you start the service, we need to do a little bit of a setup on it. So you right click on the service and you click on properties. On the properties, we can set it up to start up automatic. That means when you start your system, the service starts automatic. We're just going to leave it as manual. The one that's really important is by default, it uses your local system account. You don't want that. You want to use the account that you used to run 123 synchronizer. In our case, this is a test, and we just put in the password. And now what we've done is provided with the credentials to the service to run as a test. So when you do that, you now are ready to start the system. So you click on start and that will start the service. So now your service is running in the background. It's using the background settings for the service. So let's look a little bit more into the management interface. One interesting piece we have is the sync log. By clicking on it, you open the sync log that shows you what's happening. In this case, it shows you when it was started and what working folder it's using. It also shows you when the background process started as well as what it did. We can see here that Chris Huffman was the one who got processed and the process went through, and as well as when the next scheduling date for the sync is going to happen. So back into the management interface, we can go and click on the Sync Now button. What that will do, it will take this moment and put that as being the synchronization due date, and it basically will start the synchronizer to run at this date. So if we open the sync log now, we can see that the synchronizer just ran. By just a simple click there, we actually got the synchronizer to run in the background. So this marks the conclusion of our demonstration on how to run 123 Synchronizer as a Windows service. Just to wrap it up, make sure that all the users are set up properly and that they sync properly using the interactive interface of 123 Sync before you go into a Windows service setup. If and when an error occurs, this error will be written to the log file. The log file is like the service diary. So you can open the log file and just look at it. Also make sure that the log file doesn't get too large and clear the log file ever so often. Use the 123 Sync management interface to install and uninstall 123 Sync Windows service. Again, thank you for your time and thank you for using 123 Synchronizer.